Hey, today we're looking at 20 questions on fair housing. Good luck. Hope you do well. The Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing based on which of the following characteristics? A. Income level. B. Occupation. C. Race. D. Marital status. C. Race. The Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, familial status, and disability. Which federal law is primarily concerned with prohibiting discrimination in housing? A. Civil Rights Act of 1964, B. Fair Housing Act, C. Americans with Disabilities Act, D. Equal Credit Opportunity Act. B. Fair Housing Act. The Fair Housing Act, part of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, is the primary federal law prohibiting discrimination in housing. The Fair Housing Amendment Act of 1988 added which two protected classes? A. Age and sexual orientation, B. Familial status and disability, C. Marital status and income, D. Gender identity and military status. Familial status and disability. The 1988 amendments to the Fair Housing Act added familial status, families with children, and disability as protected classes. Which of the following actions is prohibited under the Fair Housing Act? A. Refusing to sell or rent a home based on the buyer's income. B. Providing different terms or conditions for sale or rental based on race. C. Refusing to sell or rent a home based on poor credit history. D. Charging different prices based on negotiation. B. Providing different terms or conditions for sale or rental based on race. The Fair Housing Act prohibits providing different terms or conditions based on protected characteristics such as race. What is blockbusting in the context of fair housing? A. Encouraging the sale of property by stating that people of a particular race or religion are moving into the neighborhood. B. Limiting the number of occupants in a rental unit. C. Steering prospective buyers to certain neighborhoods. D. Refusing to rent to families with children. A. Encouraging the sale of property by stating that people of a particular race or religion are moving into a neighborhood. Blockbusting is the practice of inducing homeowners to sell their properties by suggesting that the racial, religious, or ethnic composition of the neighborhood is changing. Which of the following is considered steering under the Fair Housing Act? A. Refusing to show properties in certain neighborhoods based on the client's race. B. Offering a lower price to a buyer who makes a large down payment. C. Showing homes to all clients in the same neighborhoods. D. Refusing to negotiate the sale price. A. Refusing to show properties in certain neighborhoods based on the client's race. Steering is the practice of directing prospective buyers or renters to certain areas based on their race or other protected characteristics. Which entity is primarily responsible for enforcing the Fair Housing Act? A. Department of Justice, B. Department of Housing and Urban Development, C. Federal Housing Administration, D. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. B. Department of Housing and Urban Development. A. HUD is responsible for enforcing the Fair Housing Act and investigating complaints of discrimination. What must a landlord do to accommodate a tenant with a disability under the Fair Housing Act? A. Install an elevator in the building. B. Make reasonable modifications to the unit if necessary at the tenant's expense. C. Provide a rental discount. D. Offer free transportation. B. Make reasonable modifications to the unit if necessary at the tenant's expense. Landlords must allow reasonable modifications to accommodate tenants with disabilities, but the tenant typically bears the cost. So before we move on with the rest of the questions, if we're helping you, please help us. Hit the like button now and then subscribe. We really appreciate it. Thanks. What is redlining in the context of fair housing? A. Refusing to rent to families with children. B. Denying services to residents of certain areas based on racial or ethnic composition. C. Providing different loan terms based on creditworthiness. D. Charging higher rents to people of certain races. B. Denying services to residents of certain areas based on racial or ethnic composition. Redlining is the discriminatory practice of denying services such as loans or insurance to residents of certain areas based on racial or ethnic composition. Which of the following is an example of discrimination based on familial status under the Fair Housing Act? A. Charging higher rent to single individuals. B. Refusing to rent a unit to a family with children. C. Charging higher rent to tenants with pets. D. Refusing to rent to individuals with bad credit. B. Refusing to rent a unit to a family with children. Discrimination based on familial status includes refusing to rent to families with children or imposing different terms on them. If a real estate agent suggests that a client avoid a neighborhood because it has many residents of a certain race, this is an example of A. Blockbusting, B. Steering, C. Redlining, D. Disparate impact. B. Steering. Steering involves guiding prospective buyers or renters towards or away from certain neighborhoods based on race or other protected characteristics. Under the Fair Housing Act, which of the following must be made accessible to people with disabilities in multifamily dwellings constructed after March 13, 1991? A. Elevator access to all floors. B. At least one accessible route into and through the dwelling unit. C. Swimming pools. D. Private balconies. B. At least one accessible route into and through the dwelling unit. The Fair Housing Act requires that multifamily dwellings constructed after March 13, 1991 have accessible routes into and through the dwelling units for people with disabilities. Which of the following is an example of a reasonable accommodation under the Fair Housing Act? A. Allowing a service animal in a no pets building. B. Providing free parking. C. Lowering the rent of all tenants with disabilities. D. Installing a swimming pool lift. Allowing a service animal in a no pets building. Allowing a service animal in a no pets building is an example of a reasonable accommodation for a person with a disability. Can a landlord legally refuse to rent to an applicant with a history of criminal activity? A, yes, without any restrictions. B, no, under any circumstances. C, yes, but only if the decision is based on specific criminal convictions that pose a threat to other residents. D, no, if the applicant's income is sufficient. C, yes, but only if the decision is based on specific criminal convictions that pose a threat to other residents. Landlords can refuse to rent to individuals with specific criminal convictions if it poses a threat to other residents, but they must avoid blanket policies that disproportionately affect protected classes. What action should a real estate agent take if a client insists on discriminatory practices? A, follow the client's instructions. B, explain the fair housing laws and refuse to comply with discriminatory requests. C, report the client to the authorities. D, negotiate a compromise. B, explain the fair housing laws and refuse to comply with discriminatory requests. Real estate agents should explain the fair housing laws to the client and refuse to engage in discriminatory practices. Which of the following is considered discriminatory advertising under the Fair Housing Act? A, cozy one-bedroom apartment. B, perfect for singles. C, close to public transportation. D, family-friendly neighborhood. B, perfect for singles. Advertising that suggests a preference for singles can be considered discriminatory against families with children, thus violating the Fair Housing Act. What is disparate impact in the context of fair housing? A, intentional discrimination based on race. B, policies that appear neutral but have a discriminatory effect on protected classes. C, steering potential buyers to certain neighborhoods. D, refusing to rent to individuals based on income. B, policies that appear neutral but have a discriminatory effect on protected classes. Disparate impact disparate impact refers to policies or practices that are neutral on the surface but disproportionately affect members of protected classes. Which of the following is allowed under the Fair Housing Act? A, advertising a property as adults only. B, refusing to rent to a tenant with disability. C, asking about the number of occupants for safety reasons. D, charging a higher security deposit for tenants of a certain race. C, asking about the number of occupants for safety reasons. Asking about the number of occupants for safety and health reasons is allowed as long as it is applied equally to all applicants. What is the penalty for a first-time violation of the Fair Housing Act? A, a warning letter. B, up to $16,000 fine. C, up to a $50,000 fine. D, mandatory jail time. be up to $16,000 fine. The penalty for a first-time violation of the Fair Housing Act can include a fine for up to $16,000. Well, I hope you did well on this test. If we helped you, once again, please help us. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss our videos, and comment below. Also, check out our channel. We have hundreds of questions that'll help you pass your real estate exam. Please do one of those things for us. It really helps us out. Have a great day.